Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. On this episode, we are talking machine learning in accounts payable with my guest, Kristin Ewart, a senior project manager at Dooap. Dooap is the sponsor of this episode, and Kristin tells me what the company has learned through embracing and delivering AP and invoice management solutions that use ML, with a focus on making it easy to get started and to find use cases that quickly lead to positive results. We discuss the growing use of ML technology, especially among Dooap and Dynamics ERP customers, some of the specific capabilities that work today in that context, including predictive coding of invoices, and why customers should expect a simpler ML experience from their vendors. All right, I am here with Kristin Ewart. Kristin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jason. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. Can we maybe start with a bit of an introduction for you?
Absolutely. My name is Kristin Ewart. I am a senior project manager here at Dooap. I've been with the company roughly 3 years now, supporting our client prospects by doing demos and then onboarding new clients and supporting them after go live.
Excellent. Well, great to have you. And I wanted to start by just kind of getting your impressions of the state of machine learning and how it applies to what you're doing and what you're watching these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So machine learning is a type of artificial intelligence, or AI, as we all know it. And it uses the data to teach itself. So the software runs on algorithms, it finds patterns in the data, and it's continually learning and improving. You know, it can learn how the organization processes invoices. It can leverage that information to recommend or auto-apply processing rules to both new and past vendors. You know, and additionally, it can help improve AP workflow automation by intelligently routing the invoices based on keywords, coding, or vendor information. So it's beneficial really to anybody who's looking to increase automation and efficiency within their day-to-day process.
How common would you say machine learning is in the context of your work?
Nowadays, very common. We've seen a definite increase in the interest over the last year. We've done earlier blogs, say a year and a half, 2 years ago, on artificial intelligence and machine learning, and the blogs didn't really get a whole lot of attention. I don't think that the industries were ready for that. Change is very difficult, I think, for the human being, and especially when you have a tight control over doing something manually, although it's not efficient. It's familiar and it's comfortable. So when you start to increase any sort of automation, people are naturally going to be skeptical. But I think nowadays people are looking and needing, more importantly, more automation to be more efficient in their processes. You know, maybe they want to downsize for whatever reason, and doing a manual process is not going to be efficient enough for them to keep the number of employees that they have, or they want to downsize to. So with that said, we have seen an increase in our blog attendance regarding artificial intelligence and machine learning. So I'm happy to see that, because it really does help the organization and the folks actually doing the work, and it frees them up to do other things that are as important in their job, but they may not have time to do it at the end of the day because their process is so manual.
Yeah, one of the observations I've made is that I think there is a perception issue that when organizations see maybe high-level services that are available, it doesn't seem as something they can reach as easily, something that's as accessible. That's the word I was looking for. But when vendors like Dooap or others start to incorporate machine learning use cases into solutions, it does seem, I think, more real and maybe more tangible. Are there specific features that you think customers are looking for when they look for machine learning? Well,
definitely automation. So it's speeding up their process for sure. And I think when you're introducing automation in general to any organization, I think trust is very important. So they need to trust their vendor, and their vendor ought to be showing them that moving away from a manual process is safe. And again, change is hard for human beings. And so if the trust factor is there, then I think they're most likely to adopt more of an automated process. They're looking for example, in the AP industry, it's approving invoices. You know, approvers are used to manually approving, and it's comfortable for them, although it takes time and it's inefficient. It's comfortable, it's familiar. And when you show them a use case and you show them how it can be automated, they get excited about that and they start thinking about, wow, if I can automate this process of my day, then that frees up time to do this laundry list of things that I know I have on my plate, but I just can't get to. So from my day-to-day experience, it's really working with the AP folks, the AP specialists who are receiving those invoices and passing them through the workflow to the approvers who are actually doing the actual approving of those invoices. So I think, again, trust is a big thing in helping people get to this stage in the world that we are. And it's all about automation.
And I guess so automation is also wrapped up in your experience with the actual learning, the machine learning model itself. Can you talk more about that?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So the way it works is that the machine learning itself, the AI itself, is built into the system. Okay, we call it, and it works by something called a passive learning, and passive learning just kind of sounds lazy and bad, but actually it's the best way to do it. So as the user is using the system, the AI is gathering all of that data and storing it as history. And it eventually provides suggestions to the user to say, hey, based on your history, this is what I predict that how you're going to approve this invoice or code this invoice or whatever have you. And so it's not like we're dumping a whole lot of data prior to the user using the system. That is sort of an antiquated way of doing it. But rather just learning as the user goes along, and that's how they make the predictions for the user. And eventually those predictions can be automatically applied so that the user doesn't have to really manually do anything, pick a workflow, add the coding, etc. They can just review what was automatically applied based on their history. And then they can say, great, that's the suggestion that I wanted. I didn't have to do anything. All I had to do was review it, which takes a split second, as opposed to manually picking it, which can take up to 5 to 10 seconds.
So more cases, more outcomes that the model learns and is trained on, the more accurate it becomes, and the more the organization can kind of depend on its predictions with more confidence. Absolutely.
I mean, the AP folks, the approvers, they know their job. They know how they're supposed to process those invoices. So as long as that those approvals and whatever they're adding to the system, as long as that's accurate, the predictions are going to be accurate. So that's not to say that if they enter something incorrectly, that the machine learning is not going to pick up on that. It absolutely will pick up on that. It's just, it'll take a little bit longer, maybe 1 or 2 more invoices to rewrite what it had learned previously.
And in the kind of models we're talking about, maybe I should have touched on this a few minutes ago, but just to make sure I understand, are you talking mostly about automation where the data is sort of already available, or is there an element of like character recognition and text recognition involved in the processes you're talking about as well?
I'm going to say both, Jason. So we've got optical character recognition, which is also known as OCR. So that data is picked before the invoice hits the Dooap system. And the machine learning is going to look at that data and capture the data based on what was selected during the OCR. And that is what helps make those predictions, in addition to whatever the client is adding manually. But in addition to the OCR, but yes, we are looking forward to capturing data based on invoice history and without using going through the OCR. So I would say both.
Okay, yeah. So that's kind of what I suspected was a bit of maybe a blended element. I know OCR has been a big part of what Dooap does, and a broad range of AP automation solutions have included OCR over the years. But this is really something beyond much beyond that from what you're saying. Are there any benefits that, we've talked about sort of what these capabilities are, benefits that AP approvers are actually seeing, or that Dooap's clients are seeing? Anything else specific that you can point to?
So I would say in regards to AP, so before machine learning was here in our world, there were rule-based parameters. So we would set up rules based on, coding, based on workflows, etc. And we all know that rule-based parameters require maintenance, and a lot of it. Things change on a daily basis. Where do you make those changes? Do you have to make them in two different places? As you know, we integrate with Microsoft D365 F&O as well as AX 2012. And where does the user make those changes? Do they have to make it in their Dynamics environment, or do they have to make it in their Dynamics environment and Dooap? That's a lot of maintenance. And so with the increase of machine learning, decreases the level of maintenance, because the machine learning maintains itself. It maintains the data. It understands if you make a change. So there's nothing for the user to do except do their job. Code the invoices, send it through workflow, etc. Here at Dooap, we reserve time from the development team with every release to increase our level of automation in regards to machine learning. So we are always increasing the opportunity to have those invoices flow through the system, quote unquote, touchless, without the users really having to do anything except maybe to have a quick glance at it. I would say one of the main goals for Dooap development in regards to machine learning and PO matching is not just comparing the invoice or the product receipt, but to learn how to integrate that data seamlessly. So really, we don't really want the AP folks to have to do anything except review it. We have a beautiful functionality inside of Dooap where if everything matches correctly based on machine learning, we can even skip the AP process. AP won't even have to look at the invoice. We also have the ability to skip the approver if everything matches exactly, or at least is within the tolerance that they've set. So having to skip AP, or skipping AP rather, and skipping the approver on a fully matched or at least within tolerance invoice saves them a lot of time. If you have a 100,000 invoices a year and 80% of those invoices are going through the system touchless, how much more time does AP have back in their day to do the things that are also on their plate, but they just can't get to? Same thing with the approvers. Why should an approver have to look at an invoice if there's nothing for them to do? It just doesn't make sense. It's just a wasted time. And we all know that we have more on our plate than we can churn out in 8 hours. And most of us are working more than 8 hours, but should we have to? No. And this is why machine learning is so important to Dooap, because our main goal is to have AP have time in their day to do things that really, really matter. Looking at an invoice that doesn't need anything for them to do based on the history just doesn't make sense. It's antiquated. We're moving into a more automated world every day, and to have an antiquated process is just inefficient. You have to have more people on your team, etc. So that's our goal at Dooap is to make it easy for AP to come in and do their job. They've got a hard job. It's not easy, and so do the approvers. And so our goal at Dooap, number one goal, is to make it easy for our clients to process their invoices in a timely manner. And this is where the machine learning comes in.
Mm-hmm. And again, another question I have that is probably important, but maybe listeners are wondering too, when it comes to models that actually can do some of this work that you're discussing, for your solution specifically, are customers getting models from Dooap that are sort of pre-built and ready to be trained?
No, they're not. What we have is, as I mentioned earlier, this passive learning is they come in, they process one or two invoices, and boom, the history is there. The machine learning already knows and predicts what they're going to do on that next invoice. And part of our goal is to make sure that those predictions come to the user fast, meaning the user doesn't have to run through 100 invoices before predictions start popping up. No, we want it immediately. So with our new clients, onboarding our new clients, as well as our existing clients, but with our existing clients, the data's already there. But with our new clients, running through one or two invoices and boom, having the predictions already there, that's our goal. Because we've got clients that have as low as 5,000 invoices a year. It's not a lot of invoices to process per week. So if our machine learning capability requires 100 plus invoices just to start making predictions, that poor client is going to wait 6 months just for some sort of automation. Whereas our other clients on the other end of the spectrum, we've got clients that have over 1 million invoices a year. And so, of course, they're going to have predictions fast, even if, our machine learning only starts at 100 plus invoices. So we needed to make sure that we could capture those suggestions straight away, regardless of the size of the invoice volume per year. And that's what I mean by passive learning. So it's actively learning as the client is using the system. And we feel that this is a better tool or way to approach machine learning than just gathering past data and loading it into the system. That is an antiquated way to look at it. Because what if the data is wrong? What if they want to change their process? How long will it take if you already have past data in the system to rewrite that data? It would take forever. So our approach is passive, meaning as the client works in the system, the suggestions keep coming and fast.
Yeah, interesting point. I mean, when I started learning about machine learning, training the model with historical data was, step number, 2 or 3 of what you needed to know about getting started. And what you're saying is things have evolved, especially in terms of what users of machine learning in their solutions should expect or should consider reasonable.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think as you're explaining machine learning to folks who aren't familiar with it, when you talk about how the system starts to learn, and if you make the comment, it learns passively, you kind of have to explain that, because in our society, passive has sort of a negative connotation: slow, lazy, not very efficient. But in regards to machine learning, in fact, it's opposite. It's very efficient. It's up to date, and therefore it makes the client's job easier, regardless of what position they hold in the company.
Anything else our listeners should know about what Dooap is doing in this area, or what you're paying attention to for the future?
Well, I think I'd like to ask folks to have an open mind about automation. Like I mentioned earlier, I do feel that change is hard. It's not easy, especially when it comes to something that you have touched manually over the years. There's a sense of comfort to that, even though it may not be efficient, but it's the devil you know. And so I think for folks just to have an open mind, to give it a try. We can always turn it off if it becomes too uncomfortable, but just to give it a try, because I can promise you that in the end, even in the beginning, it's going to make your lives so much easier. Whether you're AP, whether you're an approver, whether you're the CFO or the controller who are approving invoices, it will free you up to do the other things that you needed to do that you didn't have time for because you're bogged down in either receiving the invoices from the vendor, whether looking at invoices for approval that don't really need approving because they're perfect, for example, just to have a little bit of trust and have a goal in mind. If you want automation, Dooap can certainly help you with that. And this is my message to all of the client prospects that I speak to. It's just talking about machine learning and make it get comfortable for them, making it safe for them. Because again, if you're doing something manually, yes, you know how to do it. Yes, it's comfortable, but is it efficient? And can you be more efficient, especially these days where, with the economy that we have, maybe you need to downsize. But if you're downsizing, you need to look for a more efficient process because you have less people. And even if you're not downsizing, your company is growing, and automation can help you get to a point where you can process invoices and do everything else you need to do in a day and still have time left over in your day.
All right. Well, Kristin, thanks so much for joining me. Really interesting to hear this update from you and the Dooap team. Thanks for being here.
I appreciate the opportunity, Jason. Thank you so much.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks once again to Kristin for joining me. And this message from Dooap: book a demo with Dooap at www.dooap.com/bookademo. That's dooap.com/book-a-demo. And that's it for this episode. If you want to get in touch with me, send me an email, jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. And for all of our updates, please do follow us on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World, signing off.